Okay, hello and welcome to the Big Number Natter. I'm absolutely delighted today. I'm being joined by the wonderful Mr. Giuseppe, winner of Bake Off Series 12, was it? Am I getting my series mixed up? I should know this.
Oh yeah, well there are way too many now. They should stop it and be happy with the winners they've got.
So the Big Number Natter, it's just basically to have a conversation about numbers and the charity National Numeracy, which I'm really happy to be an ambassador of. It's all about empowering people to feel confident about using numbers to help in daily life, sort of break down any stress and stigma around numbers that we have. So this is just a chat to sort of get an idea of how, different people across society and some well-known faces feel about numbers themselves. So I suppose to jump in, Giuseppe, do you have any, personal feelings and emotions and ideas towards number? How do you feel about them when we talk about numeracy?
That's a very good question. Generally speaking, my gut reaction when I hear or talk numbers is very positive. I think that they're very helpful, at least to me. I wouldn't have been able to do half of the things I've done in life without the familiarity I've got with numbers. But I do understand when you mentioned that just a few seconds ago, the stigma around numbers. I have to say that being a foreigner in this country and being a guest in this country, that's one of the things that I found really new and almost difficult to understand at first, because it isn't common, certainly not in Italy, but I don't think it is in many other places in Europe, that you see numbers and numeracy as this difficult to get in space, this such a complicated area that it's only for few. It's a really odd preconception that I think it should be, banned, because it doesn't help anybody.
That's really, I didn't realize, because obviously I've just grown up, I'm speaking to you from Edinburgh, I've grown up in Scotland all my life. It's often spoken about being really uncomfortable with numbers, and it's almost sometimes celebrated, a bit of a fear of maths. It's quite a sort of almost celebrated things at times. So that's really interesting to hear as a bit of it's something you didn't experience in Italy growing up.
No, not at all. It was quite the opposite for me, actually, because I don't know whether it's true or not, but I remember back in the days when I was a kid, I was quite good at math, but ever since I remember, I'm not sure how much of that, however, is a true natural talent. I remember back in the days, I heard very often the phrase when I was in primary school, well, you're a boy, of course you're good at math, and you're not good at Italian, or the equivalent of your English, because it was for me painful to write a sentence in Italian, and it was very easy to solve any math problem. So there was this sort of preconception. So I don't know how much my familiarity with math comes from me hearing this all my life and therefore almost giving for granted that I was good at math, or whether there is a natural talent there that I'm blessed with. I don't know. The reality of things today is that math doesn't scare me. It makes me giggle when I hear things, as you say, almost celebrating the fact that they find math scary.
I suppose that's probably it's quite a positive story in one side. It's come from maybe that slightly negative side of, assigning certain qualities to different genders based on numeracy or literacy skills. But, also at the same time, you can see that positive reinforcement and that sort of positive discussion around saying, oh, well, you will be good at this, has actually led you to being good at it. So, without having the negative side of saying, oh, because you're good at this, you will be bad at literacy, just creating that positive discourse is really good to helping people feel confident and use numbers well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're 100% right. Obviously, I'm 47 years old now, so this is over a generation ago when I was in primary school, and certainly things are not like that, thankfully, any longer. But yeah, my point there was mostly that there are perhaps both elements that are playing a role there. You've got some natural inclination towards some subjects rather than others, but the fact itself that you are expected to do well, I think that it does trigger an element of self, almost like a virtuous cycle there, because I knew that my parents and the people around me expected me to do well in math, and I took a lot of pride when I actually did. So I put also a lot of effort into it to do well, because I knew that that was expected, but I also knew that that would have sort of validated me in a way. This is all obviously in hindsight. All of these things were not going on into the 6-year-old heads, but looking back with the maturity of an adult back to those days, I think that that's what sort of sparked this virtuous cycle. Good expectations matched with a lot of hard work, has led to effectively having for life an extremely valuable tool.
I'm gonna move it on a bit. So we know each other obviously through being on Bake Off, and now we get to. It's great because you have this family of friends that we know through the show, and we chat about baking and all that when we meet. But you've got a really good background in baking that you saw from your dad working in bakeries growing up, and you've seen it all through your life, you've seen a bit of a professional baking side to it, and also you're obviously an incredibly talented baker yourself. Have you seen, through growing up and then also in your daily life now, do you see a connection between numbers and baking? Do you see any confidence that can be found there as well?
100%. I mean, it couldn't be, the two couldn't be more intertwined. The fact itself, Peter, that all my recipes are written in Excel is a testament to the fact that I give numbers a lot of importance. But in a way, I don't do it for the sake of it. I don't do it because I like to overcomplicate things. The only reason why I do it is because it is easier for me to interpret those ratios and those quantities through the lens of maths, because I know, for example, that if I have to use 3 eggs in this cake batter, but my tin, for example, is too big for what I have to do, I know that if I add a 4th egg, I have to increase everything by 33%. So the whole thing gets automatically translated into this mathematical language, and it just makes things easier. And it's funny that you should say that. I think that many bakers do, and I in my season there was Jürgen, the Jürgenator was in my group, and he's a physicist by trade, so he had exactly the same sort of interpretation to recipes. And the one funny episode was that while we were in the tent, we were chatting about bakes and everything, and one topic that I had to bring up to a German baker was Stollen. I love it to bits, and I'd never made one. So I asked Jürgen for his recipe of the Stollen, and obviously the next day he sends back this humongous Excel worksheet where all the amounts are all completely interlinked, and you just have to put in how much, how big you want to make it, and the whole thing is calculated for you. And I was like, yes, I found another one. It's not just me. But it just goes to show that it's a way of simplifying things. Actually, it's not a way of making them more complicated, because you can navigate baking by interpreting the numbers in a much smoother way.
Yeah, and I think that's also one of the things that I love about baking. That's one of the things that I always try and bring into our conversation with Natural Numeracy is, it's an arena where you don't think you're playing with numbers all the time. But as you said, if you've got, a 9-inch cake tin, but the recipe calls for an 8-inch cake tin, you're able to, increase the quantities a little bit. And then you're working with ratios, you're working with sizes of tins and areas of circles and everything without even knowing it. So I think baking's a really fun place to get chatting about numbers, especially with young kids. You don't realize that you're working with them, but you're working with ratios, with the sort of basic number concepts that you need for life. So it's a really cool environment to utilize and learn about numbers in. It's amazing.
Absolutely, and it's interesting that you say that, because I was having a similar conversation just yesterday with my youngest. He was going to a birthday party, and the birthday party was supposed to be starting at 12:30, and so he read the invite and he goes, yeah, it starts at 12:30 and it ends at 2:30. So I'm like, so Alberto, how many hours is that? How many hours does the birthday party last? It took him a while because obviously he's 6 years old, but then eventually he said, yeah, it's going to be 2 hours, Papa. And that's excellent. And going back to the point you were making there, I think that, you know, whether we like it or not, numbers and math pervade everything we do, from baking to just going to a birthday party. And it's just a matter of acknowledging that and getting the best out of it rather than being scared of the whole topic.
Yeah, and that recognition of where in life, you know, even on the thing of timetabling out a birthday party, if you see that numbers are a part of all these different parts of life and that you're actually engaging in them every day, that can help you to not be scared when, you know, you step into the maths class where it's a bit more of a formal structure of it. You know, having that confidence, knowing, oh, I'm dealing with these all the time. It's really, really useful. You have a fantastic baking book, Giuseppe's Italian Bakes, which we've talked about how you write on Excel and you hone your recipes using your number skills, your sort of analytical engineering brain to make sure that we have really, really good quality recipes to work from. And it is a beautiful book. It's absolutely amazing. But in the recipe writing process, this is something that I find when you're testing and developing recipes, you have lots of failures along the way, and sometimes that comes from mismanagement of the numbers in my case. Have you had any big mishaps in your recipe development or in the bake-off tent or anything like that where you've had a bit of a brain fart or something's gone on?
Yes, is the short answer. And the funny thing is that when that happens, it's very difficult to then trace back to the root cause of what happened. But there have been instances in the past where I was supposed to be making like a yeasted dough, so something that should have been decently stiff, and you end up with something that looks more like pancake batter. So clearly something went wrong at some point along the way. You might have either mismeasured something or misread something or miscalculated something. I mean, it's very easy to add an extra egg, especially when you've got your handwritten notes on your printouts. You know, reading a 3 as a 2 or vice versa, it's really, really easy. So yeah, I've had plenty of those. I can't say that I've been systematic enough to trace back the root cause, but I don't think that's the fun of baking. If everything was always perfect from the word go, half of the fun would be lost.
Yeah, and you know, when things go wrong, you just put custard on it and then serve it for pudding, and everyone still has a good time, even if you've monumentally fudged up the ratios and the textures and everything, and it's all gone wrong. People still tend to enjoy it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that it's becoming a bit of a trend now on the socials where not pointing the finger to anybody when people try to zest lemons on cakes and the whole lemon falls on the cake. Along those lines, yeah, not referencing anybody in particular. But failures have got their charm.
Yeah, no, I seem to have only posted baking failures recently because I've been studying for my exam, so I haven't had the time to do the perfect thing. So everything seems to be going a little bit wrong as I'm baking with an hour too little of time. So
yeah, that makes you more human.
Making mistakes.
So, yeah.
Exactly. Well, we sort of somehow managed to win the bake-off ourselves, yet we still make these mistakes and problems. Yeah, and that's part of the message that National Numeracy brings. It's you can start with their basic National Numeracy challenge, which is a really simple way to figure out where you are in your number journey and what your sort of confidence and competency is. It's a really, really basic way to do that. And then from there, you can sort of follow the steps, and they provide really simple resources to meet you where you are. And you can make loads of mistakes along the way because it's this stress-free environment in which you're engaging with numbers. So then give you the confidence in the real world. So I've done my National Numeracy plug there. I've linked it into the conversation that we've had. Giuseppe, thank you so much for giving us some of your very, very precious time at the moment and for having a chat with me about numbers, having a laugh, showing people that numbers are everywhere, and that when things go wrong, we can have a wee laugh about it, move on, and learn from it. So huge thanks to you. Thank you ever so much.